Moderating this panel, I work at Digital Extremes, and I'll let you guys take care of yourselves, starting with closest to me.
Hi, I'm Keith. I'm a concept artist. I've been working on Warframe since day one.
Hi guys, I'm Jeff.
Don't let it go to his head.
I'm the art director on Warframe, and this is. Good job, Velko.
I don't know if Mike's here, but the sculptor as well is somewhere maybe. He's here because he's doing an Ortis workshop.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have some cool Prime weapons, as you guys know, and maybe an unreleased one.
Oh.
Yeah, I got a good Graham ribbon, so I'm happy.
I had no idea you were showing that. No idea.
I'm the villain, Jeff.
It's true. All right.
Yeah.
What kind of Warframe would carry a weapon like that, Rebecca?
Oh, you want me to go that far into it? We don't have anything to show for that, though. So.
We don't have anything to show for that.
Yeah, but I don't want to dragging this on too long.
No, you didn't.
It's coming, so who could this be for?
They're fantastic.
I think you guys can probably just go silent at this point. We'll just go through this.
These are so good.
And then, who would have this?
Yep.
And I think we showed this one on a dev stream already.
Yep,
This was our new axe entry because God of War was cool and we have axes too. You know. And I bet if we had an Eidolon themed Warframe, they'd use a shotgun like this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Just enjoy it, guys. Like.
Kaz killed it with this. I think it was her idea. She's like, can I do a sentient shotgun? And I was like, well, let's see what you do. And then she killed it. This turned out amazing.
That's going to be super fun. And I guess if you want to look a little more like such an unreleased Revenant Warframe,
yep, this is Revenant inspired.
And you know, if you're here, you like Corpus, some pretty cool new Corpus weapons.
Yeah, Enrico killed it with these. These are beautiful.
And it's been a long time since we released a glaive weapon, so.
Yeah, Corpus glaive.
There you go. People like to throw discs.
They do. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. For this, Percy's like, can I have it? Can I have it? So, and yeah, so we're gonna see what he did with it, and it's.
But he felt that maybe there should also be a companion skin.
That's right. So Sam had showed me a design he had done for a Kubro skin, kind of like probably about 4 or 5 months ago, before the Liger design. And then when he saw the Liger design, he kind of pitched, well, maybe Nidus needs a pet doggo to go along with it, and we love the idea, and yeah, so.
So let's take a look first. Screenshot.
Woo.
And then if you're a Nidus...
Well, before you do that, the visual design of Nidus is that as his powers stack, his armor kind of opens and progresses, so the next render you see is kind of the final state of how his armor stacks onto him as he builds. It's just...
As you get your stacks generated, you get quite armored up.
It turned out amazing.
And that should also obviously apply to our new companion. And maybe he should get just as cool looking. You roll, Samuel.
Yeah, very cool, Samuel. So the armor is an armor attachment set for the Kubro.
Oh, he doesn't get to stack, bro?
He doesn't really stack as his powers go, but it is a cool attachment set that you can put on.
So that is incredible, and
it's
that's
incredible.
Sort of our deluxe deep dive. And as you guys...
Which is here, which is beautiful. And Pablo, again, came running over when he saw he went sneaking through my concept directory.
Yep.
And picked this out, and he came running over for a Warframe pitch that he wanted to use this for, and we had to make some modifications to it because the design is amazing, but it has a bit of familiarity to Zephyr. So Ray, our lead character artist, kind of redesigned the helmet, and we kind of made modifications to the bits that come off the arm to kind of turn them into cloth. kind of go along with it. But I don't know if there's anything you want to talk about with the idea behind the concept.
I mean, obviously there's the mythological connection, as with the code name. So it's got this avian, creature feel. And as always with these things, sometimes I explore stuff, and I wasn't sure if they were going to be sort of bird talon gauntlets, and if that was going to relate to either a new weapon type or possibly part of the actual Warframe.
What you're seeing here, the fundamental theme of this Warframe is gore. So every one of her abilities, everything is built around the idea of basically enemy meat shields and gore and claws and harpy and tearing. So it's very visceral, and Pablo will absolutely kill me for saying that. But
no, I think he'll be happy that you said that. And then again, we just wanted to make sure it didn't cross paths with Valkyrie too much in the presentation of that kind of quality to it. So she's a bit more elegant rather than rage.
Yes, and you guys know Valkyrie has her claws and rage. Exactly, that was the really important distinction. But this Eidolon Warframe, Keith.
Oh, I love this.
So this was something you did sort of, I guess, a year ago.
While working on the Eidolon. And then I sort of went, I got to keep going with some of this. What if it was, integrated into some Warframe elements?
So obviously when you were doing the Eidolons and everything, when you wanted to do this Warframe, how did you feel it would fit in our world with
It's tricky because we're still figuring out how they worked as well. So it's one of those things where everything kind of coexists. And you also want to weaponize other people's ability, like other factions will weaponize secrets from other factions. So there's always kind of an opening in that sense. And I feel the Tenor are always, unlocking darker and darker arts to use on their end.
Yes, it's true. The Tenor are getting darker and darker.
Thing with working with Keith, he did this. He's really great to collaborate with because he provides even so many ideas you don't ask for. So, he was helping us out with Eidolon, designing Eidolons, and he's in that wheelhouse, and he just kicked us a bunch of Warframe designs, and this came along with it. But whenever he gives us Warframe designs, there's always weapons included with it that, there's loads of his weapon designs are in the game.
Actually, you also did Balas's sword that we never actually released in the quest, even though we said we would. Jeff, what's that all about?
We have. Did I say that quest or a quest?
That's actually a good question. I don't know.
Technically, there's plans.
Oh, okay.
There's plans.
Now, I'm going to but Jeff, the Prime trailers.
Oh.
I just want to know, and I figure you.
Why?
Well, I think we need to be honest that we're probably not doing them anymore for quite some time because they just take, is that true?
I feel sad committing to that truth. Honestly, the Hydroid is almost done. It's almost done. If someone would write some lines for it, we could
Where's
probably
the
make
pineapple
that.
hat?
He's gone now. Oh. Zephyr is really far along. And then Sacrifice, just with the delays in Sacrifice, we had to kind of pull all animation resources onto Sacrifice. And then all of a sudden we're shipping Limbo. It just kind of even snuck up on me. So I really hope we'll ship the two that we have in the process, and then if we can find the window to kind of continue doing this.
Yeah, it's hard. I know. Sorry.
It's fun, but it's even just a fun exercise for the animation team. It's just a really good kind of outlet for them creatively.
All coming.
Yeah, it is. This might be related to what you see later.
Yeah, this evening at 6 o'clock. So this is one of the fun bits of getting back to corpus aesthetics.
Yep. And I think, again, this was Kaz, I'm pretty sure, who designed and built this. And
if you want to give Kaz some love, they're the one in the Alad V costume.
Yeah, if you see an Alad V wandering around, that is Kaz.
Alad V cloak, everything.
Yep.
So that's Alad V. And of course, I have a microphone here, and I would love to open.
George Spanos. I'm the audio director at DE.
Okay, please clap.
I know, that was a long pause there. You guys were like, I don't know about that guy.
Cole, or DE Scree. I do some characters in the game. Mostly just Clem, though. But
Alad V and Captain Vor.
And level design as well.
Hello there.
Hello, all you filthy little lizards out there. Oh, stop. My name's Lucas Schuneman. I'm voice actor from Chicago, and amongst many other things that I do, I'm very happy to be back here for a second Tennocon. So glad to be back here. And I voice both Papa Tilbur Gore and Uncle Nefanyo. And then there was this new guy that sounds like Rick DeSchool, I believe is what we call him. He does have lines. I've never heard him on the planes, but he does talk, and that's pretty cool. So yeah, it's good to be here. Really great to be back, you guys. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Awesome. And last but not least, all the way from Scotland.
Margulis. Oh, yeah. So I'm Max Howarth. I voice the character Ballas. My first Tennocon. It's amazing to be here. The fans are really cool, so thank you all. And I'm trying to tell everyone I meet that I'm much nicer.
Literally all our songs. So
Yeah.
if one of you came up with that, congrats. It's the name.
Yeah, so that's what this next video is going to be, just to show you guys a little behind the scenes about the process of that.
Yeah. So yeah, the sound in Warframe is of course made up of everything you saw in the first video, then the soundtrack, and then of course our characters. So we'll get through our next video, which is all soundtrack coverage.
Just before we do that, I must also give a shout out to the team. I work with a bunch of great sound designers: Jeff, Travis, Willem, Carl, David, Mark, Eric. I think that's all of you, I hope. And yeah, so
Steve.
It's me plus Steve. A bunch of and Steve once in a while. So yeah.
When he roars. Okay.
Hey guys, just going to take you through a bit of the Ballast theme that I wrote for the Sacrifice quest. Ballast is an interesting character. You know, he's both, you know, kind of Orokin, kind of sentient. So we wanted to make sure that we hit upon all of those flavors when we were writing the music. So the first thing I wanted to show you is the beginning, which has this interesting kind of synth kind of thing going on. I was struggling for a while with how to start this off, and I wasn't quite sure how to do it because I wanted to have a bit of sense of foreboding and brooding and mystery. And then, so I was just going through some patches. Actually, I was using Massive, which is a fantastic synth plugin. And I came across this patch, and it just kind of worked. You know, I'll play a bit of it for you. So it's got that dark, kind of mysterious vibe. And a cool thing that I like to do is I like to always have things moving on it. You know, I always like the sounds are never static. So you can see here in the shot here, the cutoff filter is gradually opening up as the synth line plays out throughout the beginning. So it starts very kind of quiet and low tones, and then it builds into higher pitches, which is pretty cool. All right, so for the drums for the Ballast theme, I wanted to make sure I had some like heavy kind of powerful, thunderous kind of sounds going on for it. You know, Warframe is famous for its use of taiko drums, and they're very big drums. They're very powerful sounding, and they're very unique sounding. So I kind of just started, you know, messing around with some different drum sounds and kind of came up with some interesting patterns. And the way I like to work is I work in pieces. So I'll do one track at a time. So, you know, you have a pretty basic hit there that then gets augmented with another track. And then another kind of a normal kick drum that kind of gives it weight, you know? Then there's another kind of percussive element that's in there as well, which kind of gives it a bit of like a unique kind of Orokin kind of vibe. And then a bit of a shaker in there, because why not? You always have to have shaker, right? Yeah, so that's the basic building blocks for the drums on this track. It's pretty straightforward, actually, but you know, it always takes time when you're trying to figure out which sounds to put in and which sounds will work and that kind of a thing. So yeah, so that's kind of a bit of an overview of how that works. So another element that we wanted to use to give it a very creepy kind of vibe. You know, Ballast is a creepy guy. He's got this really weird long arm. It's like, okay, how do you make his theme kind of feel creepy and mysterious and kind of off kilter? So, you know, I was kind of messing around with some different sounds, and I kind of came across this one kind of interesting sound that has this high pitch. It almost feels like a string thing, but it isn't. It's kind of a weird synth thing that just gives this really creepy kind of mysterious, otherworldly vibe. And it's actually two parts. So I'll play you the first part is this. And then there's a layer that goes on top of that, that's this, together. Just kind of fills it up a bit, you know? It just gives it that creepy kind of vibe, you know? And one thing that I always like to do, one thing that like always makes things feel creepier, rather than just holding a note, is add some pitch bend to it, you know? So you're as the note is playing, the pitch is kind of changing and it's going down in pitch, and it just gives it this creepy, eerie, off-kilter vibe. And actually, I did that for quite a few of the sounds in this theme to just give them, you know, something more, something creepier, something kind of more mysterious and offsetting. You know, the strings at the beginning are a good example too. They, you know, it's this one held kind of note that just kind of the pitch of it is going up and down constantly, which kind of gives it this creepy vibe. I can play a bit of that for you guys too here. It might be a little hard to hear, but we can try here. So you can hear it's kind of like going kind of in and out, you know, and it's just making it feel very like off-kilter and creepy and like unsettling. Yeah, so those are some more elements of this track. So in this track, I also knew that we needed something unique and special, so the human voice is something that people really resonate with. You know, it gives music a real personality. So we knew that we also wanted it to feel like, you know, Ballas had this air of majesty and of importance to him. And so we thought, hey, what a great idea it would be to put in these really strong, full-bodied male vocals. So first, this is what I put in. You can hear a bit of it here. And that's fine on its own, but you know, a common thing to do is to augment samples, this is a choir sample, with real recordings to give it that personality and to really give it a flavor, you know, and you know, it's still hard to really meld samples into something that sounds realistic. So we recorded one of our sound designers here, Eric, who's a singer. Want to take this from the top, or?
Yeah, that's
okay.
Right.
All right.
Yeah. Oh.
I nailed it that time, no question. So we recorded him multiple times onto about 10 or 12 different tracks here. And then this is just his vocal of that part. You know, and then when you combine them, you put his part in with that other sampled part, this is what you get. So you get a nice kind of, you know, different amount of timbres in there. You know, you get high parts, you get lower parts, you got mid-range parts, and it just kind of fills it out really nicely in the context of the track.
Yeah, so just a little insight into how some of the music is made.
And you and I were talking earlier about this, about the quality of the writing.
For
and
sure.
the quality of the writing leading to actors being able to make stronger decisions and being able to say that it's less on me and my interpretation of the character when there's such good writing that's just powering my creativity to go, well, I was gonna make something up, but I like that, that's good, I'm gonna run with that. I remember both Till Rhaegor and Nathaniel's descriptions were about that big. It was all text, no visual. Not one picture I had. Everything was all text-based. And Nathaniel was easy enough. I just was like, all right, let's make a preacher who's just selling a story. I can do that. Let's just do it. And I got that one right on the very first take. But Till took back and forth because when the only description that you have for Till Rhaegor is, well, he's a scientist and he's a sociopath and he's very intelligent, but he's aware of how intelligent he is. I don't know about you guys. Does anybody else, when you hear the word scientist, you guys think like a white lab coat, and you get like Doc Emmett brown hair, and you got that? That doesn't work for Till. I was going like, Marty, I've done it. I've created a Tenno. I mean, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. But I didn't have any visual for him, and then we went back and forth 4 times. I remember it was 4 rounds, and we went back this. And when I finally saw it, when the 2 Men of Rigor 3 years ago, holy cow! I remember I was blown away by just the visual. I'm like, that's what he looks like? Or the script itself. And also, for anybody out there that wants to get into video game and scripting and writing, write a script. Full script. Let your actors know who they're talking to, why they're saying it, have directions in there. Because if you give us a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, with just line, line, line,
there's no context.
There's no context there. And we have so much more. And that's one of the wonderful things about the scripts from DE is that you guys just knock it out of the park.
Yeah, that to the table is a necessity, but the characters they're only as strong as the writing in a sense. Like you can bring the style, you can bring the flavor, you can bring the cadence to the lines, but if the lines are not, if they're nothing special, the character may just fall flat. And that happens in movies, that happens in other video games, some of them we can even just think at the top of our heads. I'm not going to give examples, but then they're the ones that stand out. And sometimes it's because of what the character brings to the performance, but sometimes it's what they're actually saying, how the story unfolds. And so my hat goes off constantly. I actually do have a hat.
It's written in Grenier language.
Just make it
Right,
up.
the Grenier language, yeah.
Do we still use that?
We still do.
That translator?
It's just a script.
great.
It's a script, and I just I enter the words in English, and I press F5, and it translates it into Grenier, and I send it off to these. I send it off, and I'm like, "Good luck,
I get the
guys."
script and I'm like, oh, happy day.
Yeah.
This is going to be
It's like
such a good day.
5 consonants in a row with no
Yeah.
break, no vowels.
Totally.
How do we say that?
Totally.
God,
You're used to it by now, but I'm sure there's so many people who get the auditions, and they're like, "What the heck is
Or
this?"
just people that are auditioning for it that are brand new, like, what do they want here? I have no idea. What is it? Because they don't know it's Warframe.
Totally.
That's
Yeah. I think though, one thing that I've been dying to see, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I would love to see Ballas and Miss Rebecca Ford
What?
Space Mom.
finally
Oh, would you
touch
Oh my! I've
and,
actually.
and do it live.
George.
He should be able to do it
What?
from there. He's got the.
What
oh,
did-
okay.
Whoa! Hold on a minute.
Oh my! Well,
Sound panel is the best panel.
so if you came to
Hashtag.
this
Sound
show right
panel is the
now-
best panel.
Scandal
Hopefully
2018.
the color red doesn't show up on the camera. Oh my god.
And I will say this.
Your characters.
I will say Warframe is the very first thing that I've done as a voice actor that actually I started to have fans, period. And I was like, because the first time I delivered Nathaniel, and then 3 weeks later it was Till for the 2 Men of Rigor, because it was False Prophet, and then 3 weeks later it was Till. And I just kicked out the lines, been doing 80 video games up to that point in my career, and I'm just like, all right, there's another character. Didn't think it was going to be anything like that. I think it was 2 or 3 days after 2 Men dropped, you sent me an email that said, dude, they freaking love you. And I was like, what? And there was forum posts and all these things. Is that Kelsey Grammer? Is that Samuel L. Jackson? Is that Morgan Freeman? Holy crap. And I'm like, no, it's not. No.
Wait, what?
That's one of the cool things also about doing voices for projects. We were talking about this morning, is that when you get hired to do a game, usually you get hired to do a game one time,
yeah.
one session, one recording, done, never come back to it again. Now,
And
if
there's
that happens-
no feedback from the guys playing the game.
whether it's feedback from the developer, whether it's feedback from the community, and if it takes off, then the community goes, oh, that must have been really, really fun. It's like, I don't even remember. It was one time. But I've had 3 years to work with these guys. You've had even a little bit, maybe longer, I think, than that. And, you know, you've been able to do the trailers and then coming back now for more stuff with Ballast. So that's one of the cool things about doing this is that you get to revisit these characters. They start to grow an actual personality and a life of their own. I mean, the Lotus is probably growing on you something fierce, Reb.
It's my longest relationship.
It is.
I'm joking.
That's another fanfic that's out there, but still, that's just.
It's also another thing about the fact that the game is all, you know, it's live and it's always ongoing as opposed to a AAA title which ships and then it's done. But I just read a comment, I think it was yesterday, and it was something like, "Boy, Captain Vor's voice sure changed since the War Within. What's going on with that?" And I remember when I was doing the performances, I mean, initially it was, did we do Grenier first?
Yeah, well,
I think
he was Grenier first, and
Space Russian or something?
Yeah. Well, he spoke the same language as all the grunts did. And then I guess just for story reasons and intelligibility, with main characters, it's tough to have them speak, a language that's a made-up language. And then, because then you always need to have those subtitles, and you're relying on
Super
those to
fun,
understand.
though, let's be honest.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but then, and that's true. And then we had to go back and re-record a whole bunch of it.
Oh yeah,
And,
matching the inflection of the original.
That's right.
You know, like
I forgot about that. That's right. Yeah.
Tenno, Gararumune. And then you got like, "You are mine." It just doesn't
That's
have,
right.
but you got to like figure out a way that works. Obviously, Vor is processed, so if I'm asked, do your best.
But
Sargus Ruck. I'm like,
that's one of the
"Oh,
great
shit."
things as well, is that these characters can grow, they can evolve, they can change over time, and they're allowed to because we get to keep on revisiting them over and over again. And so
Real
there's
people
that
change
freedom.
too.
There's
Like-
that, oh yeah.
I imagine your range has changed since you started, and I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's a natural thing for it's
like-
living, breathing characters.
And then like once we established how Till sounded when we needed to come back from the Natal quest and then the assassination, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I know exactly what he's supposed to do. But then I've always been kind of like really fascinated with like how Nefanyo might kind of start to break out of that preacher mode. Because one of my favorite, people have asked me what's my favorite line in Warframe, and I go, well, everything Till says.
Yep.
And because I can't pick one favorite Till line, I can't. But my fun favorite Neff line is the final line of the Glass Gambit. Is the final line because he breaks a little bit. That preacher facade actually starts to break a little bit because he's like, don't go, no, we've got one, no, and he starts to break a little bit. And I love that idea that as a character, he's like, and then he's
See the
like,
cracks come
you don't know what
through.
he's gonna do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm so excited to see like, is that possible? Could we have something like that? That'd be great.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it makes me happy. That's
Yeah.
just as an actor.
So that's why you're not going to see a lot of previs from the art side, but just kind of a lot of the thought process that went to, how we make Warframe. We kind of just build it on the fly a lot of times. So we have a really great set of artists that he works with that can we can yell at them like, this is what we want, and then they have to kind of build the set, and
After tears,
after
of course.
tears,
Yeah.
after tears.
Make each other
Yeah.
cry. a
Rocking
lot.
tears.
Well, I think when Umbra and sort of the mystique about Umbra meant that our weapons team in particular got to make a lot of cool stuff that really has the visual. So we're just going to take a look at a couple pictures here of content you guys already have and know. This is part of the skin collection we released.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, sorry to talk about spoilers. Lucas built and designed these things, but for Umbra, we wanted to give him. It was the first time we gave kind of a real, tangible backstory in a character sense. That you got to see the character before they came a Warframe. So the idea was that he was a Dax before he got turned into the Warframe, and Lucas custom designed these as his. These are like his personal Dax weapons. That's the idea of it.
Warframe.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And then we also have, of course, one of the more popular weapons right now. In terms of visuals, I know there's some partners in the crowd that don't like the stats, but this is an art panel, so. It's not their fault, okay? It's not their fault.
And again, this is Lucas. We really like the idea of Umbra telling the story of a samurai, and he custom designed this weapon for Umbra's personal sword.
Along with some cool armor, why not?
Absolutely, yeah. And again, just to kind of complement that samurai theme that went along with him.
Yeah. So as you guys know, if you've played the quest, there is a lot of sort of like a hospital room moments throughout the quest. And when it comes to Matt's team, they really had to tell the story through the props. So in particular, this prop.
Yeah, you know, like Jeff was saying, we kind of have a story, or there's like the high-level idea that Steve's got, and then we get to a point where like, you know, it just keeps getting refined and refined. So we're kind of last minute doing some stuff here and there, and sometimes, well, a lot of times it's not last minute, but that room was supposed to be something else entirely. You know, that was a what do we call it? Like a search and seek type of situation in that room where we're going to have multiple objects that were kind of related to the quest or related to the story, but you know, not directly related. And then so we designed a whole bunch of stuff, including this. I mean, this thing here is actually in the quest and part of the progression story, but a whole bunch of props that we designed to fill this room, only to figure out that it wasn't going to work that way any longer, and we kind of pulled them out.
Yeah, so speaking of pulled them out, I don't think we saw the origami in the quest.
I really love these a lot, yeah.
These were some, do you think we'll see them one day, Matt?
Well, yeah, the cool thing about a lot of this stuff is if we don't use it for the quest, it ends up being, you know, decorations for your operator ship, your landing craft, or, you know, for wherever else. And it'll probably end up in your dojo space at some point.
So the dojo becomes, in particular this next prop, I think everyone wants on their ship. So that's some confirmation to do this, yes?
Yeah, this was one of those things. I mean, this ended up in the quest, but this is one of those objects that we were trying to fill the space. And as Keith was just saying, like, we're trying to tell a story, you know, a little bit about the history of the characters and of the story that's occurring. And, you know, working on the quest stuff, it's sometimes a little fly by the seat of our pants, but it's honestly the most fun stuff to work on because you are delving deep into that story. You know, doing regular tile sets and coming up with an idea for a new Grenier set or new Corpus set is great, but, you know, the story is handled pretty lightly there. But when we do this stuff, especially in the last few years that we've been doing the kind of story-based quests, it's way more fun. Like, just to kind of create story and, you know, take ideas that Steve and Jeff have and then try to, you know, put them to 3D is pretty awesome.
This is my favorite prop for that reason, because when Steve and I were talking about the character, you know, we kind of thought of him as a warrior kind of artisan, and that he might be a musician. And we talked about, we did some research, and we really liked the sound of the shamisen, the Japanese guitar. And then we talked to Keith Power, our composer who we work with, and he wrote that beautiful song that uses the shamisen.
Yeah.
So the idea that, and the kind of storytelling device was, the suggestion was that was the song that the Umbra character would have played to his son on this. It was really cool. Like, Steve really kind of came up with the concept of the board game, and I think it just fit the context of the story so well to be in such a position of weakness to play against the villain, Ballas, who's in such a position of power. I think it's kind of one of my favorite storytelling components that we've done in the game.
Still think it should have been a full Go game, though. Like 2 hours long,
yeah,
just
exactly.
suddenly in the middle of everything.
Who here are we spoiling right now, just so we can know how bad?
I'm so sorry.
Sorry, everyone. All 6 of you.
You were warned.
Yeah.
You were warned. In a futuristic game, but this is clearly like a Napoleon-era portrait.
Yeah. This is work by Craig Sellers. That a good number of the concept art team had roles in doing stuff for us. Either it's prop design, like Jelko designed the shamisen, Rosa did the tea set. This is a painting that Craig did. Steve and I had a conversation, and we were like, hey, it'd be cool if we did something like X, Y, or like a hero portrait, essentially. And then an idea that this room was to be Orican in nature, and we had a whole bunch of Orican pieces. And we had ideas for, like, Steve had ideas about how he wanted stuff to be presented and the type of things in this space. So to get the prototype rolling really quickly, instead of making a gray box, you know, that's kind of boring and untextured, we tend to just kind of use what we have at hand because we have so much of it to put together.
And then you were able to do this. Sorry.
Well, and that's the thing, like, it's really helpful for us to see, like, the fact that they can do that so quick for us and then present it, like, it felt too decorative for the tone of what the situation was, you know, and it kind of led us, like, it led Matt to kind of build this space.
Yeah, it's a bit more grim here, you know, you have it's very grim in this room.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it progresses as well. You know, it's like, hey, well, it would be cool if it was this type of thing. And then our Q Bros came up with some super awesome stuff. The Kamiki brothers killed it on this stuff. Like,
so this was all sort of like the inspiration for that new Vitruvian experience, which just came about iteration after iteration to get all this really awesome.
We've been struggling with reimagining the UI. We've been working on it for about 2 years. Trying to...
Yeah, this is, again, an early test. Steve had an idea for, you know, some shader tricks that some post-process stuff that we could do, and Jeremy built something for us. We, you know, again, start with an existing level and start pulling pieces away to prove the idea. You know, and this worked to really, I mean, it was pretty quick to do, and it worked to really nicely inform what we wanted to do or what we were going to do. But there were problems with it, you know, so we start thinking about the story more and what, you know, what the goals are for that, and then start to strip stuff away until it works.
What's with the long arm, Keith?
Yeah. We'll find out, I guess.
I guess we will. But he has like a little like pocket watch, aka the Vitruvian. So these were some ideas we had for that.
Yeah, these are sketches that Željko did for us, and we had this idea where Ballas would wear the Vitruvian as a personal computer device or a pocket watch on his wrist. You know, him being Orkin, you know, we're trying to make stuff look ornamental, and obviously if you've seen what Ballas looks like, you know, there is some Renaissance quality.
So now this is kind of revealing that there's, I think with the Lotus there was something where the whole game you're wondering what's under the mask. You know, what's the kind of the person under the mask? And she sort of, the reveal kind of goes the other way. She's less warm than you might have expected or hoped, and a little bit more divine and kind of worrisome in that way. And you're not really sure what your relationship with her is like anymore.
Especially if you see her like this.
And that's, yeah, that's the big reveal in Sacrifice, and that's the big figure that she has.
So those who are, I'm assuming most people know the lore, but the idea is Lotus is a sentient who took the form of Margulis, who was Ballas's human love, that she's kind of like this dual character. So when she leaves us in the apostasy and takes her sentient form, she isn't completely able to abandon the Margulis aspect of her character. And when I first kind of talked him through it, when he gave us this, I was not expecting to see her face, especially her eyes. And I got really kind of nervous about, like, do we show her eyes? Because we never showed her eyes before. But the thing I really loved about it was that this is the least human she's ever looked. And I love the contrast of giving her probably the most human quality you can in that state by giving her her eyes. And then even with how we render the eyes when she opens them, they're anything but human quality looking. You know, so I thought it was just brilliant how he was able to give her this quality of humanity, but pushing her more into a monster than she's ever been. I just love it. I think it's perfect. I feel it's weird. I feel really proud of the Sacrifice, and a little guilty as well, because you know the cliffhanger. There's a lot of emotional reaction to the cliffhanger, and I think but we don't take it for granted that there's a bit of an emotional attachment to this character. You know, like we definitely cherish that, and we think it's a very important part of Warframe. And I hope you guys trust that we're treating her with a lot of respect, and we have a lot of plans. So I'm gonna make
weird because no one said that to me. So
no, I was probably the meanest to you about it.
It's cool. It's cool.
Rebecca's always been the villain, guys. Always.
It's true. That's why I am so good with weapons, segue. So we're just going to go through some of our weapons here, some unreleased, and some...